Thanks, Gregor, and good morning, Paul. How do you weigh at late season line changes? I mean, obviously, right now with Blake Wheeler out, you're kind of forced into it and looking at different options. But how do you weigh late season line changes with kind of trying to grow chemistry or against trying to grow chemistry heading into the playoffs?
Well, you'd like to get to the playoffs with a handle on a bunch of different looks so that, anything that you might contemplate into the playoffs, you've looked at once or twice. So there's a bit of a familiarity. So that goes to, styles of game that you'll play against, what's effective in heavier games, what's a speed game, rush teams, all those kind of things, what's your best lineup. And then when you get there, it's about what's hot, what's working. And then, so you'll keep all the things that you like that are going. What you don't want to have to do in the playoffs is take something away from what you like because you've got something that's really causing you a problem. And you like to kind of get to those with an idea of, if you're pushing from behind, what do you need to have on the ice? If you're shutting a game down, what do you need to have on the ice? I think we'll get to it. And you're right with the question, the injuries will kind of be the overriding factor with everything. You got to start from somewhere after your injury, make your decision on your lines. But would like to kind of felt that if I could get to the post-Edmonton game where we have the 3 days off before our 3-game Toronto series, that we would get very close to what we're going to run.
Go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, good morning, Paul. And I am not wearing a tinfoil hat when I ask you this, but just wondering, 2 out of 3 games now, you've had one of those quirky bounces at either end of the ice in Montreal. When a situation like that comes up, is it just coincidence, bad luck, or do you maybe in the morning skate rim a few pucks just to check for any of those nuances? What did you
Yeah, no, we would know them, right? There are certain buildings in the league that you get more of those bounces for, and that's talked about in the pregame, and it's also talked about in the goalie prep. What made last night different, so pucks in the glass here come off the glass unusual, so you'll see the goalies a little less aggressive on pucks in the glass, but that puck started on the boards, and that's why Ellie went out after it, and then it climbed up, and it was either right on the rubber of the dasher or it climbed to the glass, and then it got that unusual bounce. So you're very aware of it. We have a plan in different buildings. Some places it's pretty seamless, so you'll see the goalies get really aggressive on those rims, but there are places that are buildings that it's part of our pre-scout. And because we're using it the other way too, right? Like if you get into a building like this, we like it up in the glass because you don't know where it's coming off, and if you're on offense, that's where you want the puck.
We'll go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Morning, Paul. 4 weeks left in the season. With that win last night, you guys now have a 16-point offer, I guess, on teams outside the playoff picture. Does that change your mindset at all for this last month of the regular season as you build towards the playoffs, or is it just, business as usual, regardless of how big that lead might be?
It changes your environment for sure, right? It shouldn't change your mindset, but the environment is, you're not 4 points out or 1 point up, which brings a whole different level of tension into your room. I think when you've got a bit of a cushion, you're in a far better position to work on your game, where the focus is not on that next game quite as heavy. It's on what do we want to look like in a month? Where are the parts in our game we've got to make the most improvement? So, I'd be lying to you if I wouldn't be lying to you. It would be a mistake to say that the environment we're in right now with a 16-point cushion on the playoffs is the exact same if we were up 1 or down 1. It's just not, right? But you work hard to create that cushion, so the benefits should be that you don't have to chase a game as hard that maybe you're down a goal. You don't have to run, back-to-back nights with your A guy. You can make slightly longer term decisions, but the focus will always be on, the quality of your game.
We'll go back to Scott Billick from The Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks, Gregor. Paul, kind of a two-parter here, but you've coached a lot of goalies over your career, Sean Burke, Arthur Zerbre, Cam Ward. How does the mentality of Connor Hellebuyck compare, or what's different, better, whatever, in that situation? And then the second part of that is I don't know if I've ever heard him like complain about anybody that's played in front of him. He always takes it as himself. He's angry at himself if a puck goes in, no matter how left out to dry he's been or whatever. How important is that to a team as well?
Well, first part, I mean, the closest in mindset, I didn't have him for very long as a goalie, but he became a real good friend, would be Tom Barrasso, in an unshakable faith in their abilities and not an arrogance about their abilities, an understanding of how good they are. And because of that, they have both had that idea. There really isn't a puck I can't stop. And even on ones that are, seam passes, wide open back door, and they get over and they just get a glove on it, they want to look at that video because they think they should have saved it. So that's that. Barrasso was a Calder, Vezina, and Stanley Cup champion. I think that we're hopeful that Connor can get to that point with accolades, but certainly in his mindset, I would be the same. And I think when you look at when Connor came in, we had a pretty veteran back end. I think we were a real good defensive team in that year that we kind of broke through, and a big chunk of that is we had some experience back there, and we've changed, right? We've got more experience up front, and we're a little less experience on our blue line now. There are guys in the net, the puck goes in, they wave their hands, and they're pointing the finger. You never build. The love is the right word, but there's not a lot of love for those guys, right? And when it's never their fault. And there's a whole lot of love for Connor Hellebuyck because he thinks he should have stopped it, right? He's never banging on the door complaining about the odd man rush or the goal that beat him because it was somebody else's fault. You're right about that. So there's why he's a great leader. That rubs off on your team on how to handle adversity. He's not pointing the finger. Nobody else should either. But why he's loved as a player as well.
And final question to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Paul, with that situation that cropped up when Corey Perry took out Dylan DeMelo, Logan Stanley had a fairly quick decision to make. Is that something, because standing up for your teammate obviously is the code of ethics in hockey, but how did you view that? And because you're playing them 2 nights later, is it take a license plate and wait for the more opportune time? How do you want your guys to react in a scenario like that?
On instinct, right? The game. We were talking about that last night about the difference in the game. So 25 years ago, that would have happened, and then the linesman would have let the fight happen because it would have diffused something 10 minutes later, right? Because if that had happened 25 years ago and you couldn't get to the guy, somebody was getting to him over the course of the game. Game's changed. It's not like that now. It's kind of like one answer. Logan did the right thing. The linesman stopped it, and then it's kind of, there's no injury on the play, so you move on. It's a different game now. It's probably safer for the players to play. I don't see a lot of hits from behind. The ref missed it. We've worked real hard at not hanging over the board screaming at the referees this year, so sometimes situations will happen like that, and you've just got to let it go.